In this video, we're going to start to cover our first big topic, which is basic types in TypeScript. For every topic that we go through, here's the game plan we're going to try to follow. First off, we're going to get a plain definition and overview of the subject. We're then going to talk about why we care about each feature. In some cases, we're going to discuss features in TypeScript that I really don't think you're going to use that often. And so I want to kind of make that clear. I want you to understand, why do we care about these features, and how often will you actually use them? After that, we'll then take a look at some different examples inside of our code editor by actually writing out some code. And then finally, we'll close every topic out with a discussion of when to use it. Sometimes when to use it is going to be a little bit quick, and will really be in some of the applications we put together that you're going to discover when we use some of these different features. Okay, so that's the flow we're going to go through. Like I said, our first topic is going to be basic types, so let's get to it. Let's begin with a plain definition, or as plain as I can make it. Now, I'm sure if you open up a dictionary, you're going to find a very academic definition of what a type is, but if I had to use my own words to describe what a type is, here's what I would say. I would say that in TypeScript, a type is an easy way to refer to the different properties and functions that a value has. And there's a lot of meaning in this statement right here, so let's kind of break it apart piece by piece. First off, what is a value? Well, a value in JavaScript and TypeScript is anything that we can assign to a variable. So what can we assign to variables? Well, we can assign strings, numbers, booleans, null, undefined, objects, functions, classes, arrays, and so on. So all of those different things have types. An array has a type. An object has a type. A function has a type. A class has a type, and so on. So let's now break down the first part of the statement. What do I mean by an easy way to refer to the different properties and functions? Well, to answer that, maybe it would be easier to take a look at a quick diagram. All right, so in this diagram right here, I want you to take a look at this box right here, and I want you to answer a question for me. Here's the question. What is inside that box? What is in there? I think you can probably give me two answers. Maybe one would be to simply say it is a string. Alternatively, if you wanted to give me a more detailed answer, you might say it is a value that has all the properties and methods that we assume that a string has. So to really understand that part, I think we would really need to understand what different properties and methods a string has. Here's a short list of just some of the functions that belong to a string in JavaScript. So every string in JavaScript has access to the character at function, and concat, and includes, and index of, and so on. If I had to tell you what this thing is right here by listing out all the different functions that belong to it, that would be really inconvenient. In other words, if I asked you what is inside this box and you responded to me, oh yeah, Steven, that is a value that has the function character at, and concat, and includes, and index of, and so on, that would be super inconvenient. So instead, as a shortcut to describe what properties and function this thing has, you summarize it in a single word. You tell me this is a string. So when we refer to the type of a value, it is a shortcut to refer to the different methods and properties that that value has. Every value that we create has a type assigned to it. In some cases, that type is going to be really obvious, like in the case of this string right here. However, in some other cases, we're going to learn that types exist that are tied to values that you kind of wouldn't expect. So for example, let's take a quick glance at that application we just worked on a moment ago. Remember, inside of here, we created an interface called to-do. When we created this interface, we created a new type inside of our application, and that type's name was to-do. So there are two ways that I could have referred to this response.data thing right here. I could have either told you, oh yes, response.data is an object that has an ID property, a title property, and a completed property. But if I had to repeat that statement every single time you asked me what this variable was, it would be just really inconvenient. So instead, we formed a shortcut. Instead, I can say response.data is a to-do, and instantly you understand what response.data is. It is an object that has an ID, title, and completed property. Okay, so to sum up here, the big takeaway is that when we start to discuss types in TypeScript, these are just shortcuts. They are labels for describing the different properties and methods that a single value has. And then the secondary statement to that is that every value in TypeScript has a type, every single one of them. Okay, so let's take a quick pause right here. We're going to come back in the next video and start to expand on types just a little bit more.